Okay, welcome everybody back to Steve Talks Boxing X, STBX, where we talk real boxing with real boxing fans. And this week's show, we're going to be talking about this Saturday's show, this Saturday's fight in Sonny Edwards against Galal Yafai, which is live on DAZN. Also some of the undercard fights as well. And I'm pleased to say, joining me all the way from South Africa is Jono. Thanks, Jono. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, dear pleasure, mate. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate it. We'll go straight into it. This fight has been quite a long time coming. Do you think it still catches the sort of the general boxing public's imagination?
You know, it's a bit of a tricky one, that, because these two fighters, I mean, anyone that knows boxing knows how good of a fight this is, and like the kind of like crossroads of someone that's been a world champion and on his way, well, trying to get on his way back to the title, and then the young up-and-comer who's not clearly actually that young. People don't really realize that, but it's a fantastic fight, and I think it has started to grab a bit of that more casual market because of like sort of the family feud, and as you know, Matchroom and Eddie sort of promote these kind of fights. I think they've done a pretty good job in doing it, so I think it has grabbed public attention, but probably not as much as obviously the bigger superstars would. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic fight.
Yeah, I agree. It's a real great fight. It's a good matchmaking. It's a 50-50 fight. Sonny, we're going back. Sonny has that win over Yafai in amateurs over, I think, 9-10 years ago on the split decision. I've not even seen the fight or just read up on it. Would this bear any psychological edge for him going into this fight?
I don't think that much on Sonny's side, in all honesty. I mean, having a win over anyone surely gives you a little bit of an edge, knowing that you have done it before, so you've proven that you can do it. But Sonny is just such a great character, and I'm sure, listen, he knows that the pro game and the amateur side of it is so different. I don't see it in his head being anything of great significance, in all honesty. It was, as we say, I think it was 9 years ago. They were both very young in their careers at that point, and it's just like, I don't think it's going to bear that much fruit in Sonny's head, in all honesty.
Sure. Do you think the mind games are going to come in at the the press conferences, perhaps maybe bring, mind Galal that, he's got that win over him?
There will definitely be mind games. I mean, Sonny, it's not that like brash kind of trash talk, but as soon as you say something that irritates him, he is just going to start ripping into you from all angles. So I'm sure at some point when someone says something that he particularly doesn't like, the comments are going to come flying, and I wouldn't be surprised if that comes out as well, quite honestly.
Sure. Do you think this is motivation enough for Yafai or Matchroom using this as an angle to sell the fight as such?
In all honesty, it's probably Matchroom using it more as an angle to sell it, but being the competitive men that they are, I mean, we can't deny the fact that I'm sure somewhere deep down that Yafai is probably thinking, this guy's got that over me. Whether it be 9 years ago or not, he has done it. So I think that there will be a little creeping voice in the back of his head, potentially, that, that it sort of has happened and I need to put it right. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's got a little bit of thought going towards that in the lead up to this fight. And you know what, it probably has motivated him somewhat, but I think he has bigger plans in the sport, so he probably has much bigger motivations than that. He's a quality operator, and he's probably looking towards world honors and even higher heights than that. So yeah, maybe a little bit, but I don't think it's the be all and end all for him.
Yeah, it's not going to affect him too much. Yeah,
don't see it happening.
No. Sonny Edwards, I've said this many times before to people I've had on the show, bit of a Marmite fighter. You either love him or hate him. Am I right in saying that?
He's probably the best example of a Marmite fighter, quite honestly. People are so split on him. I don't think there's anyone that I've seen over Twitter or spoken to in the boxing kind of realm that says, I don't really mind the guy. No one says it. It's either I really dislike him, I think he's a bit of a prat, or it's on the other side saying I actually really enjoy him because he says exactly what he thinks whenever he wants. He doesn't care whether it irritates you or not. He speaks his mind, and that's how he is. So he is the perfect example of the Marmite fighter,
Yeah. Do you think he's a bit unappreciated for his boxing skills and obviously the beauty he gets? Because people well, this is another common thing where Sonny associate him with pillow fists come up quite a bit when we're talking about Edwards. Yeah, do you think that's a bit harsh on Sonny?
You know, I think people, when I say people, I'm talking sort of about the broader audience in boxing, probably don't appreciate him as much because it's maybe not fully understood of what he's doing and how good it actually is and how difficult it is to be as good as he is in the ring. And listen, sometimes it's not the most fan-friendly style, but the beauty of what he's actually doing, once you understand it, is pretty amazing. So is he underappreciated? In my mind, yes. The pillow fist comment, as we both know, comes up so much all over Twitter all the time, or now X as it's known. But is he a pillow fisted fighter? I mean, listen, he doesn't have many knockouts on his record, but it's just not the style that he fights. He doesn't stand in the pocket by choice and have to sit there and throw bombs. He doesn't take unnecessary risk. He goes in there to do a job and to win. And his style of doing that is not taking those kinds of risks. I mean, we saw it in the Bam fight where he kind of had to sit down and sit in the pocket and throw shots, and that's not where you want to be with a fighter like him. But if he has to do it, he does it. Does he choose to do it? No, he doesn't. And quite honestly, it's probably a smart move.
Yeah. Well, it is boxing. Maybe it's not for, like you said, maybe the general, and maybe but the purists maybe appreciate his skill, what he has. What did you make of that last fight, Sonny's performance with that horrible cut from the clash of heads against Carell, and the fight ended in a technical decision to Sonny in round 9, although it's pretty close on the cards in the end. But what do you make of that? Can we take anything away from that fight?
You know, quite honestly, I was pretty shocked that he took it straight after that Bam defeat. Listen, it's not an easy fight for anyone. To go up against Carell. He is so tough, it's frightening. So I was really impressed with the fact that he took him. And I mean, we probably should have expected it from Sonny. He's one of those kind of guys.
Yeah.
But listen, a tough fight to come back to, especially after quite a devastating defeat. And listen, that cut was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. So the fact that he got the cut, fought on it, but listen, he won by a technical decision. It's a comeback fight from a terrible, terrible defeat that he suffered. So I don't think you can read too much into it. Was I impressed? It wasn't the best I've ever seen him. And it wasn't the worst I don't think we'll ever see him. But it was a very good fight to come back to. And I think it stands him in better stead than going and fighting some quote-unquote journeyman or anything along those standards. Because what's that going to do for Sonny at this point in his career? He's so good that he needs to be tested. And if he's not up for a fight, maybe he falls into that trap of, I don't know, not training hard enough, not taking it that seriously, and then that can cause all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, he needs the motivation for the big fights almost as such, doesn't he, really? So, and
I think it's imperative for him to get that motivation, quite honestly, especially at this stage. You know, he's been a world champion, he's defended his belt. You know, once you get the taste of those big fights like he did against Bam, even though he did come out of that with a defeat, I don't see it. I don't see those small fights, again, quote unquote small fights, really tickling his fancy anymore. What is it going to do for him, his career? You know, he wants proper fights now. He's not going to be around forever. Listen, he's not that old, so he could be around for quite a while. But, you know, when you get to that stage of your career, you want proper fights and only proper fights.
Yeah. Okay, going back to that Bam fight, we got to mention there, because obviously it's Sonny's first loss. How much do you think that took out of Sonny physically and mentally?
You know, it's so tough to say with someone like Sonny, because looking back on his career, he's really not taken a lot of punishment. As we said, he's not someone that stands in there and trades and like takes one blow to give another. You know, he boxes smart, boxes on the outside, lots of good movement. And he hasn't really been hit all that clear that much in his career. So on that side of things, maybe it hasn't affected him as much as someone else would have been affected by it. But I think a defeat like that, even if you are someone like Sonny Edwards, it must have taken something out of you. Now, the question I think is that going to affect him going forward? That, I guess, we'll wait to see.
Yeah,
you need those tests to see that. But in my personal opinion, I don't think it's taken all that much out of him. Like, it's not going to be a career ender. He proved it against Curiel. I think that's where the question was asked after that. He fought someone, good fighter, still held his own. It was quite close on the cards, but I think without the cut, probably wouldn't have been as close, in all honesty.
Yeah. So do you think the fight in Yafai has come at a good time then? Because like you're looking at that next step, see how much Sonny's got left. If he puts in a good performance, obviously he's going to be back in the mix of world champions anyway, isn't he? Really. So a win.
100%. And I think that's what's made this a very appealing fight to Sonny, right? Of course, the Edwards Yafai name, especially in the lower weight divisions in British boxing, has been huge throughout the years. There's been all the narrative, all the build-up. And listen, Yafai's no slouch. He's a good fighter. Listen, he's only had 8 fights, but geez, he's been pushed quickly, and you can see why. He's really a top quality operator.
Yeah.
I think the fight is probably at the perfect time for both.
Okay.
Yafai needs that step up. Him going against anyone kind of under that ex-world champion or fringe world level fighter is not going to do him any good. He's been there, he's done it. He's proven that he's a class ahead of those guys. So he needs that test. And for Sonny, he needs a big name to get back in the mix. And while Yafai on his own might not be the biggest name, because it's that Edwards-Yafai family rivalry, I think it builds into a great fight, and it's for the interim world title, so they're going to push on. I think it's come at a great time for both of them, and quite honestly, it's a very good matchmaking. It's the perfect fight for both, in my opinion.
Yeah, but going on to obviously Olympic champion, you mentioned there, Yafai comes from good pedigree. How much can this help that amateur background? Help in this fight? Is it really a factor in the fight, do you think?
I think anyone from that background that's gone to the Olympics, won gold, even maybe not medaling, but anyone that's in that environment, I don't see how it can be a negative to them. Now listen, people can stay around there maybe for a bit too long, and then when they get to a pro career, it's rushed.
Yeah.
But for Yafai, I don't see that that's affected him that much, and he's switched over his style quite well to the program, and he's destructive. He's on the front foot. He does take a bit of punishment. When I say punishment, he takes a few shots, which he probably shouldn't, but that hasn't affected him yet anyway. But I think that background has to be a positive for him. It's going to help him rather than hinder him in any way. So I think anyone from that background, it stands them in great stead going forward, and it has stood him in great stead. But now it's the step up time. So whether that's going to be the be all and end all for him, I don't think so. But questions will definitely be answered come fight night.
Yeah. I couldn't believe this when I looked this up. Sonny is only 28 and Yafai is 31. I was hard to believe age-wise, because I think I feel Sonny's been around forever, isn't he? Really? So
when I was reading into the fights and looking up on it, like as I always do, you go on BoxRec and you have a check at all of it. I was absolutely shocked. It seems like Yafai should be this 23-year-old kid on his way up. Yeah. That's how I thought it was. I've never checked his age before. I was completely shocked. And the fact that Sonny is younger than him, first of all, he doesn't really look it, bless him. But Yafai being that old, I genuinely didn't see it. So maybe, that points in the direction of why he's also being pushed quite quickly. He doesn't have time on his side in that sense. And he's not an old man by any stretch, and he's still very fresh in the pro game. But it honestly shocked me when I saw that. I really couldn't believe it, because
I was surprised as well. Just like you said, I wasn't too sure Yafai's exact age. I assumed he was younger than Sonny, but obviously got that totally wrong on BoxRec. Looking back at Yafai, he's only had 8 professional fights. Do you think he's crazy taking this fight at this stage of his career?
As I said just now, I don't know about it being crazy. It's anyone else that's had 8 pro fights, and you talk about throwing them in with an ex-world titleist, it would be crazy. It would be absolutely mental. You wouldn't do this to the normal boxer on his way up, that youngster. But first of all, he's levels above those guys anyway. So there isn't a point in keeping him down there, fighting people below his level. It does him no good. It doesn't do the public any good. They're not going to get excited about him fighting someone down at that level. But after 8 fights, it is pretty unbelievable that he's fighting someone to that level. But I don't think it's too soon for him, in all honesty.
Okay.
I think it's a perfect time for him to step up to this level and get going, because what else is he going to do besides fight people at this level now?
Yeah, it's a rarity, isn't it, in boxing? You normally don't go 8 fights before fighting someone of that sort of level. You normally you're probably into your late teens, 20s. I was saying, before you even think about stepping up that sort of.
You're a long way off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like most people at this stage of the career, you think about it, they're probably still fighting 6-rounders, maybe stepping up to 8 in certain cases. The thing is, this guy was thrown in his first fight, 10-rounder, off you go, get on with it. You know, they didn't mess around with him, which is good. But it's still mental to think that after 8 fights, this guy's fighting for an interim world title. He's fighting Sonny Edwards, who is an absolutely top draw fighter. Listen, it's a big step up for him, but he needs it.
Yeah. Agree. And in theory, Yafai is a puncher in this fight, which is probably not hard to guess. Out of those 8 wins, he has 6 come by knockout. So, do you think he's a punching threat to Sonny? A knockout threat? I don't want your prediction, but just is he a threat?
I won't throw the prediction out there just yet.
Yeah.
I think with someone like Yafai, it's a bit difficult yet to even call him a puncher. And listen, in the fights he's been in, as you say, stopped 6 out of 8. He's looked the puncher. He looks good. He puts it on people. He doesn't have that devastating one-shot knockout power from what I've seen, but he puts it together so well that people get hurt and then he puts them away. And I think, quite honestly, it's a threat to anyone, especially someone from that background of the Olympics, etc. He sets himself in good stead. His boxing IQ and fundamentals are top draw. So anyone with that and with semi-decent power is a threat and is a punching threat. The difference being in this fight, you have to, I guess, now nail down the classic boxer, the head movement, the foot movement, angles. It's going to be very hard to do what he's done to everyone else to do to Sonny. Sonny's a different beast compared to these guys. Is he a threat? I think he could be a threat, a punching threat to him, but it's not going to be as easy to nail him down.
Sure. Do you think Sonny is Yafai's toughest opponent today? It's pretty much.
I think it's unquestionable.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of a gimme sort of question.
Yeah, definitely a gimme. Listen, I'll take any of the gimmies I can get, quite honestly. But he's, I think, unequivocally his hardest test to date. I think it'll be his hardest test to date, taking into account even his full amateur career. Listen, he's fought some top level amateurs, but I think when you get up to the pro game, it's a serious business now. And Sonny is not an easy night's work for anyone. And I know, looking at the Bam fight, you might think, oh, well, Bam sort of did him fairly comfortably. But Bam's a generational great. A fighter like that comes around every so often, if that.
Yeah.
And Yafai's not on that level yet, nowhere near. So it's going to be a tough fight for him, and it's by far the toughest fight of his professional career. We know that. And it might be the toughest fight that he's ever had, pro or amateur.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough night's work for the man, I think.
Sure. Not quite your prediction yet, but how do you see the fight going?
I think that Yafai might find it a bit frustrating early. I think that Sonny's going to start well. He'll be pretty quick on his feet, movement, as we've become used to seeing. I think he will grow into the fights. I think those middle rounds are going to be really competitive. And then down the stretch, it's anyone's game. We're going to have to see kind of what happens throughout that fight. But I do think that it'll be a bit of a frustrating start for Yafai, and he might grow into the fight sort of in the mid to late rounds.
Sure. Prediction time then. Putting you on the spot, Jono. What do you reckon then?
I must be honest with you. I've been thinking about this all week, knowing this has been coming up. And I've been going back and forth of how I really think it's going to happen. One thing I'll start with, I don't think the fight ends in a stoppage.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think Yafai will be able to nail Sonny down. And as we know, Sonny's not a puncher. So in my head, the way I see it going is Good start from Sunny. Yafai pulls his way back into it. And down the stretch, I think purely because of experience in the professional ring, I think we see Sonny Edwards edge a very, very close fight.
Mm.
I think it's going to be very tight, though. Very,
you're
very
going
tight.
on the cards, what, on a unanimous decision or split? Can you call
You know,
it?
it's so difficult to say.
Yeah.
But, I mean, listen, I wouldn't rule out anything like a split or a majority decision in this kind of fight. It's going to be one of those where I think it's going to be one of what do you like? Do you like the movement? Do you like the pressure coming forward?
Yeah.
But in saying that, it's not going to be a one-sided fight either way in my mind. I genuinely think it is going to be very close, but I think Sonny on a very narrow decision would be my call.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that one, Jono. If I had to stick my neck out, Sonny on points.
It's a tough call, though. I must be honest.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here now thinking I could see it going the other way as well. It's so tight, but I just think Sonny's experience in the professional ring is having gone through that BAM defeat. He's been there. He's done it. He's got all the experience you can need in this setting.
Sure.
So I think it might just be down the stretch, sort of, late in the fight. I think that's maybe where he nicks it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Yafai will have his moments, but ultimately, I think Sonny's just that experience and he's just a little bit better pedigree fighter behind him.
Agree.
Who would you like to see the winner fight next? Assuming you just said Edwards, so who would you like to see him fight next?
Yeah, I think in all honesty, I think it would be stupid of him now that he's going to be fighting and, in my prediction, winning the fight for the interim title, not to go on and push on for the full world honors.
Yeah.
So I think that's inevitably the fight we'll see next for the WBC title, full title. But in all honesty, personally, and you don't know these people on a personal level, but you can kind of get a gauge of what kind of people they are. I don't see anyone like Sonny not wanting to avenge defeats that he's had.
Yeah.
I know that'll chew on his mind, and a lot of people will disagree with me. But I mean, I would love to see that BAM fight again. As much as people say it was somewhat one-sided, I think it's a great fight. And listen, maybe not next. I'm not saying have it right after the
right
fight. Yeah. And BAM's fluctuating up and down divisions, and he's got big fights ahead of him as well. So maybe it's an unrealistic fight, but I would love to see it again, personally. I think it was a great fight. It was hell of an entertaining, and I would love to see it down the stretch.
Yeah, a bit later down the line, perhaps. Going to quickly look at the undercard. One fight that took my attention was Conor Walker versus Lewis Ritson. What do you reckon on that one, Jono?
I've always been a fan of Lewis Ritson from watching him.
Everyone is, ain't they? I think.
Oh, mate. I mean, he's value for money all the time, isn't it? Like watching him win the British title, defend it. Back in those days, you're looking at Ritson, and it was fireworks, wasn't it? Knocking people out in the first round, and it was just everything went quick with that, man. There was no breaks. I think Conor Walker is going to be too much for him at this stage. Yeah. I think Ritson, personally, is probably, I hate saying it about people, it's a fight I love watching, but I think he's past that prime stage now. And
on the slide.
Conor Walker is probably going to be a step too much at this stage of his career. Listen, I would love to see Ritson win it, in all honesty. That's me being completely honest. I would love for him to win it, but unfortunately, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, sure. What do you think of the rest of the undercards? It's a bit of a mixed response from sort of like the general public. Any other fights you can see on there?
Yeah, listen, I can see where people are coming from. It's not all of the biggest names in the world. So again, the general population that's maybe sort of newer to boxing might not see names on there that they fully recognize or want to fight or want to see fight. Sorry, but Kieran Conway, always a good scrap as well. We'll see him on the card, so that'll be a great fight. And again, I'm a big fan of Conway's. I think he's been pretty decent in his career. In all honesty, he gets quite a bit of stick, but I like him, so I'm looking forward to seeing that fight as well.
Yeah, good. It should be a great night. Looking forward to it. But that's pretty much it for another show. Thanks, Jono, for joining me there. Please, obviously, thanks for everyone tuning in. Let us know your thoughts, your predictions on the fight. If you agree with me and Jono, that'd be great. And help the best you can with likes, subscriptions as well. And enjoy the fights on Saturday. Thanks, Jono.
Cheers, bye.